It's really inspiring to see your enthusiasm for entrepreneurship, especially across our campus. As Isaac rightly pointed out, Embry-Riddle's entrepreneurial ecosystem is alive and thriving, not only within the College of Business, but throughout Volusia County. Entrepreneurship is not just about starting a company. It's about developing problem solvers, innovators, and leaders. The skills you gain through entrepreneurship, resilience, adaptability, and creative thinking are exactly what today's aerospace, aviation, and business industries demand. Here in Volusia County, we're fortunate to be part of a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is one that includes the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which is housed in the O'Malley College of Business, the Microplex just down the road, and the Volusia Innovation Hub. These organizations work hand in hand to help ideas take flight and connect students with real opportunities to launch and grow their ventures. Today, you will hear directly from Embry-Riddle students who have taken that lead, building businesses while balancing the demands of college life. You'll also hear from entrepreneurial leaders across Volusia County, as well as our keynote speaker, Cairo Abdella, who is the CEO of the AI Dudes, who's leading the way in the world of artificial intelligence and innovation. Whether your idea is a startup, a consumer product, or a service that improves the quality of daily life, this is the place to build it. Together, we are creating an environment where innovation takes flight, right here in Volusia County, right here at Embry-Riddle in the O'Malley College of Business. Thank you, and with that, please enjoy our student panel discussion. Thank you, and have a great day.
All right. Like I said earlier, this is the Student Entrepreneurship Panel. These are all here students at Embry-Riddle, and they have all started their own business, which is an incredible accomplishment. Up here, I have here Connor, I'm sorry, what's your last name, Connor? Vukelich? How do you say your last name?
Does this work? Vukelich?
Vukelich, Connor Vukelich. Seth Miller. Aiden McCollum. Nick Anderson. And Jacob Fleming. All right. Now, let's start with introductions. Can each of you share what your business is, what inspired you to start it, and where it stands today?
Whoever wants. All right, so here we go. My name is Jacob Fleming. I'm a senior here at Embry-Riddle. This is actually my last semester. My company is Generic Supplements, and that stands for the three letters of the first names of me, myself, Jacob, my friend Ryan, and my friend Kevin. We all started this business together because we are all either current or former college athletes, and the biggest issue we had was the NCAA pretty much put sanctions on energy drinks, and we're not allowed to drink them. And we needed energy throughout our busy days. I played college football, Kevin played college football, and Ryan was a star track athlete here at Embry-Riddle. So we came up with our design for our product, which is Fruit Fuse, which is a caffeinated natural fruit strip. And we started our business last year with TREP Expo. We performed very well. We got second place. We did the Volusia County Innovation Challenge, made it to the finals there. All the judges and the panelists, they all loved our product, and we've since been scaling and producing, changing packaging, getting trademarks, and getting all the legal stuff down so we can eventually scale and upgrade it after graduation.
Sweet, yeah, I'm Aiden McCollum. I'm also a senior here at Embry-Riddle, and I'm the founder and CEO of Postillion. So it's an all-in-one club management system. Basically, way back when I was a college treasurer for my rocket club, and I realized that managing the finances of a college club was ridiculously difficult, and that someone should probably create a product to fix that. I ended up being so frustrated that I started Postillion, and over the last year and a half, I've been able to grow it quite a bit. I've pitched at TREP Expo as well as a finalist for Launcher Venture, Since then, over the summer, I have been improving it a lot, and I've pulled in about $10,000 worth of payment processing through the platform, as well as having spreading it to multiple campuses.
All right. Hello, my name is Seth Miller. I am the founder and president of Rise Technologies. Basically, my company is building a upper body rehabilitation exoskeleton to help stroke, traumatic brain injury, and surgery patients recover. Basically, without getting too long-winded, I was inspired to start this company when I worked at a small airport up in Virginia, doing the dirty work on aircraft that the pilots didn't want to do. And that company I worked for got bought out by a businessman who had a stroke and went through this whole rehabilitation process. And when I came down here in Embry-Riddle, I found NASA technology that could be used to make an exoskeleton that would rapidly improve the recovery outcomes of stroke and traumatic brain injury patients. So I partnered with him, and then we're now building this exoskeleton device. We placed second at the Launcher Venture competition in the spring and have been working on building a prototype the last couple of years.
Hey guys, my name is Connor, founder of PoppinJobs. PoppinJobs is an online job search platform for high school and college students. So the idea really came about when I got my driver's license at 16 and tried looking for a job. You can imagine how that went. Online, really not much. 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away. I just got my driver's license, so I went driving there. Got really frustrated, asked a bunch of people, asked college people, high school people, kind of anybody I could. A lot of the same responses. There was a need, and so I sought to fulfill that need. And right now what we're doing is building a platform to offer tools to employers who are looking to find talent in their community, figuring out how to incorporate Gen Z into their workforce, and then being able to get Gen Z into the workforce, training them in a little bit of the old ways, a little bit of the new ways, getting them familiarized with AI technology, building out their resumes, and making sure that they can provide or present themselves to employers in the best light. We're just about to launch. We're really, really close to doing a very heavy marketing push across 15 different states, about 150 different cities. We'll be sending out about 200,000 emails a month coming in the next month. So that's it.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm the founder of Texan store. We cater to customers worldwide selling model aircraft as well as 3D printed terminals, jet bridges, and anything aviation, helicopters, etc. We work with manufacturers worldwide to bring in products to sell to our customers, as well as attend in-person events to sell to thousands of attendees at a conference, airline historical conference called Airlines International. I've attended that for 4 years, and I was lucky enough to be able to win the bid to host the convention next summer. It'll be in Denver. We go to a different city every year. We work with airline CEOs. We're working on a keynote speaker, getting Scott Kirby, the CEO of United Airlines, to be our keynote speaker for next year. We do tours to a bunch of different aviation maintenance and air traffic control towers. That's the convention side. And as far as the Texan airplane store side, just catering to a bunch of customers, bringing a new form of customer service and a new product to the customers who enjoy aviation.
Awesome, thank you, gentlemen, for your introductions. My first question to you is, what was that aha moment when you first started your business? And then what really gave you that push to say, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, it was really just because we started experimenting. Since we had a fruit flavored product, we're kind of just experimenting. We'll buy fruits from the store and see if we can, improve our performance, improve our focus, keep ourselves awake. And it was fun to do for a little bit. And I was actually in entrepreneurship class last year, and Professor Fernando, my professor, who really pushed me to go to the TREP Expo. And ever since then, we just started really putting all of our focus into it. And then once we actually had a product, we had people try it, and their eyes lit up, and they said, "I feel great. This tastes great. It's awesome. You guys are going to go for it." That was really this really is making a difference in whoever's trying it, and we really want to move forward with this. So that was our aha moment, to really just give it our all, start the company, and start pushing forward.
Yeah, my aha moment was actually very distinct for me. It was at about 2 a.m. while I was trying to fix a budget packet for our club, and I couldn't find where the last 3 cents went, which sounds like nothing, but it meant that something was messed up in my Excel sheet. And after about 4 to 5 hours of working on it, I was like, there's simply got to be a better way. So I spent the rest of the night scouring the internet, looking for any sort of tool to be able to solve this problem, and realized there's nothing. And I was like, well, I had actually recently just had another business that I had started completely flopped, and so I was like, you know what? I've been looking for something to do. I guess I'm going to start another business.
Yeah, for me it was when I was scrolling through the NASA technology transfer report, looking at the patent portfolio in the spring of my freshman year, and came across the exoskeleton patent. And the first use case it had was stroke rehabilitation, and that's, I kind of again remembered back to that businessman in Virginia, how he talked about how he went through this rehabilitation process and kind of was stuck in one spot. The machines suck. There's limited resources currently available, and so when I flew back up to Virginia for spring break, I was like, is this technology actually going to be useful? And he said this could change a lot of lives, and so we started up the company.
Mine kind of talked about it a little bit previously, but yeah, really started kind of like the question started when I realized it was really difficult to find positions online for the entry level position. The aha moment came really when I started looking at the data. So I'm a numbers guy. I'm not super great at public speaking and talking to people, but I'm really good at analyzing data. So I did a lot of market research before any sort of aha moment ever came. I had to make sure that what I was thinking wasn't just me thinking of an idea, it was something that was actually necessary. And I went through years of BLS data. I'm talking a lot of BLS data from probably from like 2010 to 2024. And it was, the trend that I saw was really the aha moment where I was like, this is something that people are actually needing. And if you looked at the same time frame, a lot of people were getting posts on LinkedIn, LinkedIn, Instagram, those kind of things, and people were saying like, I'm struggling to find jobs, I'm struggling to find this, and so just a lot of things lined up, and that's kind of where my aha moment came from.
My aha moment was, believe it or not, I was in the Virgin Islands, and it was raining, and I got bored. So naturally, what does one do? They start researching how to start a business in the Virgin Islands when you're on vacation. And I sat there for 12 hours. I had thought about how I had interacted with a similar business in the past
as well as just getting a product out there. I think a lot of people have an idea and they're like, oh yeah, I want to start a business that does this. But then actually executing on that and getting a minimum viable product, even if it's not great, just something out there is the hardest part. Getting something from idea to creation is definitely a tough part. And like you said, like just finding the ability to prioritize your time and manage it so that you can actually create a product worth selling is definitely probably one of the hardest parts of the business.
I think especially with my case, it's just the sheer amount of headwinds that you get. I'm going to be in a highly regulated industry that also requires extremely expensive hardware, and it was kind of just eye-opening to see like, hey, each one of our motors is probably going to cost $1,000, and each device is going to have 6 of them. And hey, it's probably going to cost $2 million to get this thing FDA approved. And it was kind of eye-opening to see that. And then kind of like everyone's been saying, just the time, being a engineering student while working on this is really taxing, and there have been times where I kind of may have to make the difficult decision of this homework is only worth this % of my grade, and I'm pretty confident in the material. Do I really need to do it?
Yeah, kind of combining all those together, I think the biggest thing is motivation, because you're going to face a lot of negative and a lot of issues and things that are just going to drain you of all your strength. And as long as you can figure out how to find a way to stay motivated and stay moving towards your goal, that's like the biggest thing that I've noticed.
For me, the hardest thing, like I said earlier, was just the time and the time management. Really, starting in high school was a hardship, and you know, because from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., the entire day was pretty much gone at that point. I had to pour in a lot of hours, combine that with studying for tests and quizzes, and sticking to a schedule and a routine was a big thing. Just, you know, and as well, you know, as a high schooler, you're not 18 yet. There's a lot of, you know, barriers, and there's a lot of things that you can't do until you're an adult. So that was another big hardship. And, you know, I had to get my grandmother, who helps with the financial aspect of everything. I had to get her involved just to help have some backing, and also, you know, someone that could sign on to a lot of this stuff, being so young. I was 16 at the time, so just the time and the barriers as far as age goes.
Yeah, I'll kind of add on to that, and we'll say like the fact that you're a student and very young is it's very hard to get people sometimes to take you seriously, like when you're talking to vendors, potential investors, stuff like that, because they're kind of like, yeah, you're a student, you're 22 years old, like why am I going to waste time on you? So a big part of it is proving to these people that like you are worth them spending their time on you.
I'm going to tag on that too, because I think being a student is a downfall and also an opportunity, because once you convince them that you are somebody reliable, somebody trustworthy, somebody who is going to do something with this idea, it opens so many doors. You know, being able to say you're a student has opened a lot of doors for me. You get a lot of free discounts on a lot of services that you need as a business too, just throwing it out there. But if you need like any help with anything, you know, you mentioned that you're a college student, and they're more than happy to talk to you about their processes of business and things like that. So it is a downside, but once you prove yourself, it's actually an upside in my opinion.
Yeah, I can get a common theme here that it's not only difficult to start a business, but the information is not readily available. When you guys started businesses, what's one mistake that you made where in hindsight 2020 you would have changed, or would have helped you start a business?
I would say a lot more marketing, because we were so focused on trying to make the perfect product or the perfect packaging, having the perfect pitch, that we weren't really focusing on the marketing aspect. Because, I mean, if you look at it without marketing, you don't have an audience. No one's really going to look at your products that you're trying to make so perfect. It's, you know, it's your baby. You don't want to give it out to the world just yet because it's not ready. But if you don't market it, no one's going to know that it's there. So we would have, if I had to go do it all over again, I would make the product and know in my head that the product isn't going to be perfect by any means. It's always going to be imperfect. But if you can just get the marketing out there and get the audience that's there to believe in the product, that's really what you need, and that's what's special.
Yeah, I think one of the big mistakes I made at the beginning is you got to make sure you have the right people in your corner. I think a lot of times, at least for me when I started the business, I was like, oh, it's just a software product, I can do it myself. And I did end up doing it myself, but it took a lot more time and energy and mistakes than it would have if I had like worked with people, and whether that's finding fellow developers, finding a business consultant, finding a mentor, finding an investor, getting the right people in your corner takes a long, long time, and making sure that it's the right person is difficult. I think for every like yes I got, I had over 100 no's. So it's about finding, like every time I like try to find someone that I thought was the right person for my business, you always had to ask yourself a lot, because like this business is your baby, and bringing people onto that can be pretty tough. But luckily I've had some great mentors and people like Neil Carew, who I met at a TREP Expo actually last year. Having people like that in your corner makes it so much easier. Having someone to validate your mission, someone who sees where the business is going, and also can help you maybe even on the technical side, can accelerate your business by 2 to 3x.
I would say I would integrate customer feedback way earlier in the design than I actually did, because I did a lot of kind of design from my perspective as an engineer, like in just research I did online of what the industry needs, and then I go to the customer, they're kind of like, this is great and all, but we're not even going to use that, or like, we're not going to use this feature, or we don't really need that, or it's too heavy here, like, and basically I ended up having to go back to square one. And so integrating customer feedback from like day one, I think, is something that I would do if I had to redo it.
Yeah, my tip kind of goes off the same with finding the right people. We made some mistakes early on with offshoring, and it was a very large mistake, but it looked really cost effective. And as somebody who does more business than not numbers say at all, and the numbers didn't, you know, they made it look really great. But we reshored, and I'm developing a team now that is trustworthy, and I think that really goes back to the whole trustworthy thing with a team. You have to build a team that wants to get your product from point A to point B. Sometimes it's cost, sometimes it's equity, but you know, making sure you have that right team really results in a much better product.
I would say the biggest thing that I would do over again is maybe just knowing what to expect. You know, you can do all the research in the world. You can, you know, research prices. You can research supplies and, you know, the different software you'll need, like for my website and all that stuff. That I can all research. But as far as knowing what I was actually getting myself into when starting it, especially early on, just knowing what to expect, the time commitment that it will take, because early on it kind of jolted me. You know, I knew what to expect, but I didn't really know how I would get to the final product. I didn't know how I would end up delivering on my idea and what the time commitment that it would take. And just being able to expect that, I feel like would help me, would have helped me just stay on the right track and get a better start.
When you're first starting, how do you define success? Is it profit to you, impact, independence, or is it something else?
It's definitely, I touched on. I know a lot of people will say, well, if your business isn't profitable, you're not successful, but they don't really look at, you know, look at Uber, for example. They weren't profitable for the first 10 years. Now they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, you know? So in the beginning, it's definitely not all about profit. For us personally, like I said with my aha moment, it was definitely about seeing their eyes light up and watching them say, this is really going to help me stay focused and stay awake throughout the workday, and just improve my overall productivity. And for us, our success is just helping people. That's the biggest form of success that I think any business should go after, is helping their target audience.
Yeah, I think very similar to what he was saying. I feel like a lot of times when you start a business, you're like, oh, if I hit this revenue goal, or if I bring in this much money, like my business will be considered successful. And I had to really get away from that because, like he said, the most sure that I'm filling the need of my customer, because I was my own customer. And seeing that my product is out there helping people and saving people hundreds of hours of time, saving people thousands of dollars, that makes me happy, because that means someone won't have to go through what I went through to get here. And that is worth more to me than hitting an X revenue goal.
I will say, in my opinion, success in business means you are at a point where you are not reliant on any one specific customer or investor or anything like that. Once you get to the point where if you're meeting with an investor and they're giving you a bad deal and you can walk out and be confident your company will still be there in a few months, that to me is success. Because there's a lot of startups out there. Uber is a great example that in many cases had to go to the investor and basically accept whatever the investor was putting on the table, because if they walked out, there was a very good chance they will not exist in a couple of months. And same for startups that basically only have one or two customers. If one customer pulls out, it could easily destroy your company. So I think success is when you reach a point where you basically have control of the company, because you're not having to meet constant demands from people that might not always have your best interest in mind.
For me, I think the short and sweet version is solve the problem and make sure you have pathways to profitability, because ultimately your goal is to solve the problem. If you're not profitable, you're not going to live. So solving the issue is great. You can do it at a reduced cost for a time being, but make sure that you have the foresight to know here's where we are today, here are the next steps we will take to become profitable, and going kind of combining the past three conversations or topics. Is once you get to that point, you become profitable. Now you're self-sufficient. Now you can move on and solve the next problem.
For me, it's similar to what Aiden said about the impact and kind of the legacy you leave behind, and what people remember you for. I feel like the success for me is, was I able to make a difference? Was I able to deliver on my customers' needs? And will they come back? And will they become a repeat customer? Because if I can fulfill their needs and I can do it in a way that they're satisfied and they feel like they were taken care of, then I feel like that is success to me. Especially being a customer, kind of like what Aiden said, being a customer of the industry I'm in the past, I kind of think back on what was my mindset as a customer, what did I want, and what did I expect out of the person that I'm doing business with. And that's something that I circle back to a lot, and I have to ensure that that's what I'm delivering, and that's the service that I'm bringing to the table, so that I can, make a lasting impact on the people that I'm serving.
So you're not going to be a student forever. What's next for you after graduation? Are you looking to plan to scale, do you need to pivot, or even start something new?
Definitely scaling for us. We're looking at a lot of machinery that'll help our production by at least 20-fold, which is really neat, because we're looking at partnering with gyms or schools, universities, anything in that area that has health-minded young adults and those who are still active and looking to get active. So definitely looking at machinery and opening up a facility, probably somewhere here in Daytona or in the Central Florida region.
Yeah, next steps for me are also scaling the business, but also taking some of along the way over the last year and a half of development, we've been able to develop some very unique technologies that have applications outside of this business, and specifically in the aerospace engineering world, related to artificial intelligence. So a slight pivot, and we're going to go and try to use some of that technology to maybe start a more hardware-focused business. But yeah, right now it's focused on Postillion specifically, scaling the product, getting it to as many clubs, in as many people's hands as possible, and changing as many lives as possible. And then from there, it's going to kind of go into maintenance mode for a bit, as I'm starting a full-time engineering job as well, so that'll probably suck up a lot of my time. But nights and weekends will definitely be devoted to Postillion, growing and scaling it, and getting it into more people's hands.
So we're still going to be in the R&D phase when I graduate here in a year, and unfortunately, my time will still be limited, because I will still have to work a full-time being my startup not being able to pay me the several $1,000 a month student loan payment I'm facing when I graduate. So basically, yeah, we're going to be, it's me and another person I have that's going to be helping me write software. Both going to work at Honeywell as engineers during the day, and then throw together a rehabilitation device in our Phoenix apartment at night.
I've still got a lot left of school. I got about a year and a half, so I've still got a ways away to go. But I think post school, we'll probably be at a good point, hopefully, expanded enough to where that's going to be my full-time position. And in about a year, we have plans up to 18 months to do a lot of development, and then after that, it's kind of like catching up on tech debt and making sure the platform runs as smoothly as possible. So it's a lot of maintenance, a lot less expansion, and kind of just letting it settle and see how the customer base likes what we're doing essentially.
Yeah, for me, I'd love to scale. I'd love to bring new product lines in. I'd love to work with new people. I also have about a year and a half left of college, and I'm also studying to become a pilot. So that's an interesting aspect of it. I'm going to be hopefully at the airlines in a couple of years flying. So that'll add an extra twist and everything. Being not a constant schedule, not like a 9 to 5 necessarily. But I love to continue it. I love to continue to scale, continue to impact the others around me, and just explore new opportunities and get to meet new people. I've met a ton of people in the industry in the past, and I've partnered with a couple of them. So I look forward to working with them and hopefully continuing and scaling up the business and continuing to impact people for years.
Now, before we close the panel, I do want to open the floor to some questions. Cole is going to graciously walk around the microphone, so if you have a question, just please raise your hand. She'll come over and grab you. Yeah, the microphone first.
There we go. I actually have a question for everybody. Nobody else has one for now. Can I ask you guys, is there, you say that balancing as a student is hard, and it really is, but is there anything in specific that helped you, like a certain app, a certain method, anything that helped you kind of just say like, okay, school's gonna come first, and then business is gonna come first, or business is gonna come first, and then school's gonna come first, and how did you make those choices when it came to an exam or a deadline for your business?
I can answer that one, or somebody else probably will jump in too in a second. With me, I like scheduling my classes around things we're doing with the company, so we have plans, like I said, 12 months out, so I kind of know what's coming up. And in doing so, a lot of my classes, I'll be like, well, we're doing hiring this month, let's take an HR class, so I kind of know what the schedule looks like. And it allows me to ask questions to teachers if I'm not 100% sure. It allows me to kind of do a lot of the same work simultaneously, so I'm not double working myself. And it's overall a great system. And I know a lot of us are kind of in the industry we're studying, so it helps to kind of partner the two. So you're not necessarily doing two separate loads of work. It's kind of like one and a half almost.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that help me manage my time, but one thing came specifically from a piece of advice I got from a friend. They said only really smart or really dumb people are up at 5 a.m. So, especially when I was working an internship, I was typically getting up 4:30, 5 a.m., working on my business from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., then going to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., then coming home and working on my business as much as I could until I went to bed at about 10 or 11. And that was brutal, and that was just to get a hardware or a product delivery out. But yeah, I think being up early before everybody's in classes, before people are sending you emails, before the world gets crazy, being up early for me helped me get like 90% of my work done in a couple of hours.
I would say I'm pretty lucky in the fact that I'm able to grasp stuff fairly quickly, so I don't have to do as much studying as some of my peers do, and I hate saying that because it makes me sound like, but that's kind of what's really saved me the last 4 years, along with the fact that I can operate on very low amounts of sleep for very long amounts of time, and also just have a fairly high stress tolerance. But kind of like he was saying here, I get up at 6 a.m., go for a run. I'm working until then 4 p.m. where I go to class, and then I get back to my apartment after class at 8 p.m. and then I'm working till about 1 to 2 in the morning. And over the summer when I have my internship, I get up at 5 a.m. go for a run, and then 6 a.m. in Phoenix is 9 a.m. out here. So I do all my East Coast stuff. Then I go into work, get out at like 4, and then keep working on my company again until like 1 in the morning. So it's kind of just finding time you have and doing work when you can.
Yeah, the big thing for me was just having a plan each and every day. You know, not necessarily a set schedule because it's going to be pretty hard to follow that, especially if you have something pop up. But just having a plan of action at the beginning of the day, the night prior, to know what you want to accomplish the next day. Going over assignments that you may have, any exams, being able to work with the schedule. For me, my schedule changes a lot. There's not a lot of set times, but I do have a set amount of things that I want to accomplish that day. And I think really sticking to that and remembering what I have to do and remembering the goal that I have for that day was a big thing, helping me keep on track and not lose out on wasted time. I'm not a morning person, not a 5 a.m. person, but I definitely work late at night. So I'm usually up past 12 doing something, finishing out that day and then planning for the next one.
For mine, it'd be definitely realization and discipline. Of course, being a college athlete helps a lot with time management, but a lot of the time, I'm sure we're all business students in here, we're real business, we've all earned opportunity cost, you know, in every single class we've taken. So if I'm at home and I finish my work, my tests, and I'm finding myself just, you know, on my phone scrolling, like we all get in the trap of that, you know, a realization will pop in my mind and be like, well, why aren't you working? You're doing this right now. You have time set away for it. You could be setting time away to work on your business or to grow yourself or to be disciplined and do something else. So once you have that realization, it really puts in perspective. I have all this time that I'm using on my phone or that I'm using for other stuff where I could be using to grow this business and grow myself.
I will add on, I kind of mentioned it earlier. There are, especially in engineering, a lot of assignments that you get that aren't overly useful and are kind of just designed to consume time and make you cry. And being able to recognize those assignments and being like, okay, this homework is going to take me 3 days to do and it's worth 1% of my grade, and I'm confident in the material the homework covers, I'm probably safe not doing this or only doing part of it. And I have a 3.93 GPA, so it's worked out so far.
I'd like to also add, like, keep a calendar, I personally like writing things down, so I've got a whiteboard next to my desk, and anytime something pops up, I know I can't get to it now, get to it later, I write it down so I don't forget it, because a lot of the times I get caught up with doing all the stuff that you do on a daily basis that you forget to do the little tasks that might actually end up building, you know, penny a day. Was it a penny? I don't remember. There's some quote about it. Essentially, you know, the small tasks add up, and essentially, you know, being able to make sure that all the little tasks get done, everything that gets done gets done, results in full success.
Okay, thank you. Emmanuel is my name. I was going to ask, how do you guys overcome regulatory hurdles in terms of complex certification, right? And also, I want to ask about ethical considerations, like data privacy. How do you guys overcome such hurdles?
I can speak a little bit on like the data privacy and kind of tech debt that comes with that. It comes from on a more generic stance, kind of bring the right people on. For a couple months, I had a contractor on my team who was a cybersecurity specific person, and having that person specifically in my corner helped me. I basically paid them to try to hack my platform, and that was scary, but it protected me a lot in the end.
Yeah, in my case, it's really just avoiding data until we absolutely need it, especially because most of the data we're going to collect is going to be under HIPAA regulations. So we need to make sure that we have the resources to rent out servers in a secure data center and ensure that we're compliant with these government HIPAA regulations, since it will be personal, like healthcare information that is the only funding that I have, and we've been looking for additional outside funding, and it is very difficult, especially for pre-revenue companies. There are grants available, like the government and SBIR and stuff, but they're very competitive and very difficult to get. And then VC firms are kind of your more corporate investors, just a bunch of rich people that pull money together and have professionals invest in startups. And because of that, they kind of target some of the lower risk companies or companies that are already sort of making revenue or are very close to market. And then there is the angel investors, in my case, which if you target somebody that has a personal vested interest in what you're doing, or you personally, it can be easier. It's just finding those people are very difficult. It usually takes years of building that relationship and things like that. Like in my case, it was somebody that I worked with at my job. He knew me well, and I was building a technology that he has used like similar stuff in the past and is very passionate about, and therefore is willing to invest in a very high risk investment. Other than that, it's really just your personal savings and family and friends and kind of, you know, like, are they willing to take a chance on you? It's very difficult to find external funding. So if you can pull funding from kind of your family and friends, that's ideal. And it's also like, there's things you can get that aren't necessarily direct financial funding, but means you don't have to spend money on stuff. Like, for example, I did the SolidWorks Entrepreneurs program that Dassault Systems runs, where you get SolidWorks for free for a year, and then it's like 75% off the second year, which is what we're on, and then like 50 the third year. And they gave me every single add-on that SolidWorks had under the sun. I'm talking like $15,000 worth of software for free. And so that technically is funding, because that's a bunch of money I didn't have to spend. So kind of looking for things like that too will be good funding sources.
We've raised almost a little bit under $1 million so far. I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of connections with angels already, so that was kind of where we did it. But it's still a nightmare, even with people you know. They will grill you on everything. What's your revenue model? What's your exit strategy? What's this contract I'm signing? We had all of them sign safe agreements, so it's a deferred equity program essentially. And there was like a 3-page document, and we spent 4 months discussing about how exactly it works, because it's a legal document and they're not lawyers, so they're expecting me to explain everything to them, and that's what makes things really difficult. I'd also say be creative. Like I said, there's a lot of opportunities for students out there for free things. Kind of going off of what you said, it's being creative with your money. If you're a nonprofit, lots of grants out there for nonprofits, especially for community development and things like that. And really, you want to do as much research into everything as possible, and what are the different avenues you can take. Some things require funding, some things require grants, some things require being creative with your own funds, and then also, you're part of it. You have a company, and your company has equity, so sometimes you can give away equity to receive a lot of different things. Team members, you can give away parts of your company to team members instead of paying salaries. Lots of things like that. You just got to be really creative with it.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of it is definitely from your own personal savings, like you were saying. But a thing that can help a lot with that is just connections. Going to TREP Expo, going to Volusia County, even if you're not a part of the competition, if you just go, you will meet a lot of people. For example, I met Connor at last year's business dinner and then TREP Expo again, and his dad is actually our investor. So you never know who you might meet. And then another thing that I will say that was said earlier on the panel is, like, you're a student, you're young, it's hard for grown-ups and people with a lot of money to take you seriously, especially if you have a startup that's not making a lot of money, or you're not projected to be profitable for the first couple of years. Why would someone want to invest in that? They're gonna, there's not a real guarantee they're gonna get their money back or make a return on it at all. And the last thing I'll say is, it's scary to have that much money, like, just being given to you. I've never even seen $20,000 in one place before, and I'm trying to ask for, a couple $100,000 or $500,000, and it's scary to actually feel like it's just being given to you, and then that burden of returning it to the investor is kind of on you. But if you have the passion and the determination to actually do well with it and make the return on the investment for the investor, it's going to be a huge payoff.
actually happening. It was very, very scary because it's you are essentially holding your future, your honor, your essentially self-worth in this business, and you got to put everything that you have into it because people are expecting a lot of things from you, especially when they start investing with you.
The other thing too is you not only have to prove that you're going to provide a return, but that your return is going to be 5 to 10 times what they invested within 5 to 10 years. And VC investors, you might make them money, but if it's not going to be a 10 times return, they're going to say no thanks because their entire business model is investing in 10 companies, 9 of them fail, and that one does the 10 times return that covers the cost of those 9 other failures. So they can't even take the risk of investing in you if you're not confident you can provide them that 10 times return. And then angel investors are often the same exact way. You need to make sure that your company is actually investable before you even approach them, because otherwise they're just going to tell you no immediately.
I think this is our last question, and I think it's the most important one. How has entrepreneurship changed you personally, as a student, as a leader, or even a person?
I would say it makes me notice a lot of things like way more. If we start thinking about, and we want to make a display for our product, and we want to go to this expo show and this thing, and I'll go get gas in my car, and I'll go in the gas station to get like a snack or something, and I see a huge Celsius refrigerator, and I'm like, wow, I have this here. This is like probably like maybe $1,000 for all its branding. And then you think of the scale of that this company has amounted to, where they have at least one of these in like every other gas station in the U.S. And that's just counting the U.S. Imagine all the other countries they have, and the amount of scale that they have, the reach, the marketing they have behind them. And then you start looking at it everywhere you go. You see Coca-Cola, all these huge billboard signs. Gatorade is just everywhere. So for me, it definitely just makes me look at everything and just think how massive the scale is, and that each of these companies started from something as small as like we are, where Gatorade started as just lime and salt and water from UF, and now they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. So it's really interesting to just see how big conglomerates, how big they are, and know that they started from something like we're doing.
Yeah, I think being an entrepreneur has made me much less afraid of rejection. As an entrepreneur, you're going to get rejected a lot. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, one of the things that kept me going through all this was thinking you're only 30 more no's away from your goal. So anytime someone said no, whether that was an investor or people saying no to the product or any of that, I always just found myself, okay, 29 more to go. And that keeps you going because there's going to be a lot of rejections and there's going to be a lot of people that maybe don't see your vision, but then you will find that person who sees your vision. You will find that customer, or you'll even kind of touching on the funding thing earlier, I for a while was trying to raise funding until I had someone at Launcher Venture talk to me. They're like, hey, you have a great business. Why do you need money? And I was like, well, I want to do marketing. And then they gave me a bunch of advice and help, and I was able to get to revenue and get to a self-sustaining business without bringing any funding or any venture capitalists. So just being able to take the no's in order to find the yeses has been an invaluable life skill for me.
I think the biggest thing is it's made me grow a lot as an engineer specifically, because like I kind of mentioned earlier when I started, I was thinking purely just from the technology, like, ooh, this is really cool, I can put this in the device, ooh, I like this is a cool technology, I can use that, or ooh, I like the way this looks, I designed this so well. And then you find out that all this crap that you're putting into the device, yes, it's cool, but the customer doesn't care. In recognizing that, while also learning about the fact that I need to design this thing to actually be manufacturable and be manufactured cost effectively. It needs to be designed for safety from the very beginning. And especially being I eventually want to go back into being an engineer in aerospace, the safety is very critical. And even this summer I had a chance to talk with Jim Courier, who's the CEO of Honeywell Aerospace. He said, he's like, engineers have a major problem with making crap and nobody wants it. He said, we always have engineers at Honeywell coming up and be like, hey, I made this really cool thing. And he's like, that is a really cool thing, but nobody's going to pay for it because nobody needs it. And so kind of learning that it's not all about the technology. There's a lot more that goes into it. It's what the customer needs. what the customer is willing to pay for, that's a big thing. And also manufacturing or designing the device to be manufactured cost effectively and have it designed for safety.
Oh, I could talk about this topic for hours, but I think the big thing for me is as I progress as an entrepreneur, the things I notice are everything becomes an opportunity. So I was talking to some random person the other day, just while I was playing basketball, and they were walking by, and they were like, "Man, I really struggle with the finding a job as an engineer," and I was like, "Well, I wonder if it's because of the ATS systems, which the app, if you don't know what that is, it's an applicant tracking system, and it's a lot of large companies use it to filter out resumes immediately, which is both good and bad. Good for the company, saves time, bad for the individual, might cut out people who are highly qualified but just aren't expressing themselves properly." So that small interaction with somebody just saying one sentence got me thinking about different things that can help this process, and that happens so many times. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, "Oh shoot, I need to write this down, I'm just gonna forget it." So I keep a notebook next to my bed, because there are more times than I can count I'll wake up and be like, "That's interesting, I need to do more research into that." And everything becomes an opportunity, everything becomes something to go look at and dive deeper into, so you can fully understand it and make sense of it. Because if you can fully make sense of it, a lot of the times those things become great aspects that you can build into your platform, into your technology, into your product.
One big thing for me that I've learned over the years being an entrepreneur is just fiscal responsibility. And kind of like they touched on earlier in the last question, dealing with big, amounts of money. And just, growing up, you never would have thought, like when you're a teenager, you never would have thought that that's, that you'd be dealing with tens of thousands of dollars. And just seeing that is kind of surreal. Back in high school, just that amount of money was foreign to me. And to think that I deal with that on a daily basis now is, it's taught me a lot about how to be responsible with it and, not just, waste it. And to be mindful of what I'm spending it on and just, how I can put it to the best use possible. And another big thing is self-control and just being able to, have a set schedule and operate on that schedule. It's built a lot of great things in me, and to think that just a couple of years ago I was in high school, I procrastinated a lot. I kind of just pushed everything off. I wasn't really big into committing to anything. I kind of just went with the flow, and that's something that entrepreneurship has forced me to change and made me into a better person, and I'm very thankful for that.
I will also say real quick that entrepreneurship has made me a much better researcher, because there's so much that goes into running a business and for me producing a product that I would have never thought. Just for the product side, if I want to add a certain ingredient into my caffeinated fruit strip, I have to look at the chemical bonds and how does it react with the other ingredients, how does it react with the human body, do I have to get FDA certification to use it, is it even legal to put in my product? It is. Don't worry, but all that you have to worry about, and you have to do a ton of research looking into every single regulation with the FDA and with the certifications of it, and that doesn't even get us the business side or even worse, the legal side of everything. I've had to look at so many documents of paperwork that, my head hurts after 2 hours of just scanning things to see if any of my ingredients are against the rules, or if something is bad, I have to take it out and put something else in. So it's a lot of research, but it's definitely made me much better at intaking and retaining information.
Kind of add on that, it really helps you learn how to teach yourself stuff.
Yeah.
When I started this company, I had no idea how to build an exoskeleton or just a basic robot. And now we're starting to build hardware. So it was just me, ChatGPT, and then checking what ChatGPT told me, making sure it was right, and also just researching stuff online, talking with actual engineers. And I'm here at Embry-Riddle, there are world-class mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, computer science people,
see what you're doing, not only as a